If you take a high-resolution photograph of a human face and you perfectly mirror one half of it so the bone structure is just 100% mathematically symmetrical.
It actually stops looking human.
Yes, it falls straight into the uncanny valley. It becomes incredibly eerie to look at because we are like biologically wired to look for a little bit of asymmetry.
Right, a freckle here or a slightly crooked smile there.
Exactly. That tiny bit of messiness, that imperfection, is basically our visual proof of life. But get this, as of April 2025, Adobe Firefly had generated 22 billion perfectly flawless, mathematically symmetrical assets.
22 billion.
Yeah. And we're looking at a massive stack of industry research today that points to this, honestly, this massive existential crisis.
Yeah.
We're asking, is human imperfection about to become the ultimate luxury good?
It's a huge question.
Yeah.
And we are going to map out exactly how visual communication is evolving in 2026 based on these sources.
Which is super varied, by the way.
Right. We have forward-looking trend reports from the Future Laboratory, academic papers on what they're calling the algorithmic renaissance, and this is the heavy stuff, some raw Reddit threads from actual UX professionals.
Yeah, those are intense.
The goal here is to help you understand where the industry is heading and how you can leverage these shifts, whether you are, hiring a creative team, managing a brand identity, or if you're just intensely curious about the visual media you consume every day.
Okay, let's unpack this, because reading through those Reddit threads from the design students is honestly, it's pretty heavy.
That's a lot of anxiety.
It is. These are people halfway through incredibly expensive degrees, and they are terrified. They're seeing the capabilities of generative AI and genuinely asking if they're wasting their time studying a dying field.
And honestly, looking at the World Economic Forum data we have in the stack, you really can't blame them for panicking.
No, you can't. They are predicting that template-driven graphic design will be the 11th fastest declining job by 2030.
Which makes sense when you see the generative AI design market is growing 30% a year.
30%. It's projected to hit almost $99 billion by 2035.
Right. And to really grasp this, we have to establish what graphic design actually is today. It's not just making logos anymore.
Oh, not at all. It's like everything you interact with. It's the intuitive user interface on Spotify. It's massive marketing campaigns like Coca-Cola's Share a Coke.
It's the geometric packaging of a Toblerone bar.
Exactly. Or even the layout of World Health Organization infographics.
Mm-hmm.
It is a massive field. And the anxiety from these students is completely irrational when you look at the raw output capabilities.
Oh, for sure. There is a case study in our sources detailing a single designer who used an AI toolset to generate 750 unique, high-resolution campaign images.
Wow.
And they did it in 11.5 hours.
11.5 hours. Wait, that's insane.
That workflow eliminated 90% of the time it would traditionally take an entire art department. Photographers, retouchers, lighting techs, to accomplish the exact same task.
Hold on. 750 images in a single day. I mean, I don't care how good a traditional creative director is, you just cannot compete with that math.
No, you really can't.
If a machine can do in 11 hours what takes a team of humans 3 weeks, aren't human designers just dead in the water?
Well, what's fascinating here is that the automation isn't just wiping out the profession, it is brutally polarizing it.
Polarizing it how?
So what the AI algorithms are effectively destroying is the bottom tier of the commercial market. If a business just needs a basic generic logo or high-volume repetitive social media graphics,
The machine wins.
the machine wins hands down. But simultaneously, highly strategic roles like UX and UI design, they are seeing massive growth. The median salary for a UI designer is currently sitting around $132,000.
Wow, okay, so it's not a dying field, it's just shifting to the high end.
Exactly. And to understand this divide, you really have to look under the hood at how these generative models actually function, because importantly, they do not invent.
Right. They just replicate.
Yes. They are diffusion models built entirely on statistical averages of historical data. They essentially just calculate the most mathematically probable arrangement of pixels based on whatever text prompt you give them.
So they're incredibly fast mimics, basically. They're just echoing back the most common visual tropes they've already been trained on.
A very dangerous kind of mimic, though, because they disguise a mathematical average as true creativity. And this brings us to what the academic researchers are calling the human moat.
The human moat. I love that term.
It perfectly describes the fundamental limit of artificial intelligence in design. Because, design is not just decoration, it is emotional communication.
Right.
And AI algorithms have absolutely no lived experience. They lack empathy, they lack self-reflection, and they have zero cultural self-awareness.
That actually makes me think of that example in the sources from the neuroscientist David Eagleman.
Oh, the phone icon. That's a great example.
Yeah. He brought up the phone call icon on our smartphones. You know, the little green button you press to answer a call. We all know it's a picture of a retro corded landline receiver.
Which nobody uses anymore.
Nobody. Why are we still using that in 2026? Eagleman points out that humans rely on a shared visual vocabulary to build cultural cohesion.
Shared understanding.
Exactly. If we left interface design entirely up to AI to hyper-individualize everything, it would likely replace that icon with, I don't know, a FaceTime screen or a neural implant symbol or whatever is mathematically accurate today.
But in doing so, it would completely destroy that shared community reference that we all instantly recognize. And that shared visual vocabulary is the bedrock of interface design. And it extends really deeply into emotional resonance, which is something a statistical average just cannot compute.
Give me an example from the sources.
Take the digital mental health app case study from the UX research we looked at. A human designer intuitively understands the stakes of what they are building.
They know it's for people who are vulnerable.
Yes, they know the visual tone, the color palette, and the language all need to feel incredibly warm, sensitive, and safe. They know that using a stark, blaring red for an alert might trigger a panic response in a user experiencing a crisis.
Because a human designer can actually imagine what it feels like to have a panic attack.
Precisely. The AI cannot. Because it relies merely on text averages and color theory datasets, it can easily output a healthcare interface that feels sterile, clinical, or even accidentally hostile.
It doesn't know how to read the room.
Because it isn't in the room.
Wow. It reminds me of the insight from Marty Neumeier's book, The Brand Gap. He argues that a brand isn't what a company claims it is. A brand is a collective gut feeling.
A gut feeling, exactly.
A diffusion model can generate a technically flawless, perfectly kerned coffee shop logo in 10 seconds. But it can't sit across the table from a founder, listen to the deeply personal struggle of why they mortgaged their house to start this business, and then translate that human struggle into a visual identity that makes a customer actually feel something.
Empathy and translation. Those are the two walls of the human moat.
Wait, so if the AI only knows historical data, it's kind of like handing someone a massive infinite dictionary, right?
How so?
Like the AI has access to all the visual words in the history of the world, but it doesn't have the soul or the lived experience to string them together into a poem that makes you cry.
That is a great analogy. And taking that dictionary analogy further, imagine if that dictionary was suddenly spitting out a billion flawless, perfectly rhymed, but completely hollow poems every single second.
Oh God, just exhausting.
Very exhausting. Because we now have this algorithmic machine producing an endless, overwhelming flood of scale perfection, audiences are developing what the trend reports call aesthetic fatigue.
People are just getting exhausted by things looking too perfect. Like, if everything looks like $1 million rendering, then nothing feels special anymore.
Exactly. This fatigue is triggering a massive cultural backlash, and it's actively changing the very definition of what we consider financially and culturally valuable in the visual world.
Which brings us to the Future Laboratories report.
Yes, they say we are entering what they coined the Synthocene era.
The Synthocene era.
It's a period where the boundaries between natural human output and artificial generation are permanently blurred.
And out of this Synthocene era comes this movement they are calling human by design. Because audiences are so saturated with fake perfection, they are suddenly, like, craving messiness.
They want tactility.
Yes, they want tactility. They are desperate for that proof of life we talked about earlier. And the sources point to pop culture to prove this, which I thought was fascinating.
It really is everywhere when you look for it.
Like the massive internet obsession when Timothée Chalamet showed up to a highly polished, multi-million-dollar movie premiere, casually riding a rented Lime bike.
Right, totally unscripted.
Or how British Vogue completely obsessed over Charlie XCX's low-key, intentionally messy town hall wedding. It is all about raw relatability over scripted, glossy perfection.
Luca Morena, who is the CEO of the insights platform Next Atlas, he summarizes the economics of this shift perfectly.
What does he say?
He notes that authentic human content now carries a massive premium in the market. But crucially, it carries a premium not because it's necessarily technically superior, but because it is scarce and it is unscalable.
Unscalable. Okay, that is the magic word here. Because AI can scale to infinity for fractions of a penny, Anything that cannot scale is suddenly the new luxury.
Exactly.
And designers are physically mimicking this in their work right now. The trend reports show a massive spike in what they call wonky typography.
Wonky typography. Yeah.
Designers are intentionally leaving in scribbly cues, digital ink bleed, clumsy compositions. They're creating kinetic brand systems that breathe and jitter. They are proudly showcasing the signature of a living, flawed hand.
They want you to know a human made it.
But let me ask you this, because this is where it gets really interesting for the business side. Are major Fortune 500 brands actually paying top dollar for an agency to make their marketing look intentionally messy and imperfect just to prove a human made it?
If we look at the financial data in the reports, yes, they absolutely are.
That is wild.
Well, think about it. When generative tools flatten the cost of producing an image to essentially zero, the physical image itself loses its financial value.
Right. Anyone can make a pretty picture now.
Exactly. The artistic skill is no longer the manual labor of drawing the asset. The skill is having the refined cultural taste to know what should exist in the first place and what will emotionally resonate with the current cultural moment. Taste and curation have become the ultimate commercial currencies.
Okay, and this brings us right back to those terrified students on Reddit. If human imperfection and high-level tasteful curation are the new goals, how do young designers actually get there?
That's the million-dollar question.
Historically, you learn taste, curation, and strategy by doing years of entry-level grunt work. You learn the rules before you could break them. But if AI is doing all the entry-level wireframing and layout work now, how does a junior designer get the reps they need?
It's a highly valid fear. But the historical data from the sources suggests we have navigated this exact kind of disruption before. Think about the desktop publishing revolution in the 1990s. That terrified traditional typesetters. Or look at the music industry's transition to digital audio workstations.
Oh, the Billie Eilish story from the sources. This perfectly illustrates it.
It really does.
She didn't come up through the traditional million-dollar legacy studio system where you had to apprentice for 10 years just to touch a mixing board. She and her brother use accessible digital production tools like Logic and Pro Tools in a childhood bedroom.
And the technology didn't replace the musical craft.
No, it stripped away the barrier to entry and made her unique artistic identity and her specific taste more important. Like anyone with a laptop could make a song, but only she could make her song.
Exactly. What the AI is doing today is compressing the professional experience curve for designers.
Compressing it. Okay.
In the past, a junior graphic designer would spend the first 3 to 5 years of their career doing incredibly tedious manual labor. They'd spend hours painstakingly silhouetting photos in Photoshop, or adjusting typography grids by individual pixels, or resizing layouts for 50 different banner ad dimensions.
Soul-crushing stuff.
Truly. But today, 47.5% of designers report saving 4 or more hours every single week by automating those exact tasks.
Wait, so AI is basically doing for graphic design what the calculator did for math.
That's a good way to look at it.
It doesn't mean we stop teaching math. It just means we let the machine instantly solve the tedious long division so the student can jump straight into the high-level algebra and calculus of design.
Spot on. And this is giving rise to what the sources define as the AI native designer.
The AI native designer.
Yes, this is a new generation that is learning the fundamental theories of design. Color theory, human psychology, visual hierarchy. At the exact same time, they are learning how to prompt and steer these AI tools.
They're growing up with AI as a collaborator.
Exactly, which means they can achieve the level of strategic execution in their early 20s that used to take decades of technical grinding to reach.
That is incredibly empowering for anyone studying this right now. So let's bring this down to reality for you, the listener. What does a cutting-edge design workflow actually look like today in 2026? How are these AI native designers practically using these tools?
Well, according to the State of AI in Design report, 89% of professional designers say AI has improved their workflow. But interestingly, 84% of them are using it primarily in the research and ideation phase.
So it's not finishing the job, it's starting it.
Exactly.
The 2026 workflow starts with rapid drafting. You use the AI to generate 20 different conceptual directions in 10 minutes just to see what sticks.
Right, you get the bad ideas out of the way fast.
Yeah. But then you move to what the sources call specialized agents. You don't just use a general all-in-one AI anymore. You use a vector specialist agent to get clean, scalable geometry that a human can actually edit.
Or you use a 3D volumetric agent to turn a flat 2D sketch into a lighting-accurate 3D model.
And they use multimodal prompting, which sounds like intense sci-fi jargon, but it just means a designer is feeding the AI multiple types of inputs at once, right?
Correct. Because these 2026 models can process spatial geometry and semantic text simultaneously. So a designer can hold up a messy physical sketch on a notepad to their webcam and simultaneously speak a text prompt to guide the AI exactly where they want it to go based on those rough lines.
That is just so cool. And the workflow extends way beyond just creating the asset. There's this fascinating phase mentioned in the academic papers called synthetic user auditing.
Oh, this is wild.
It is. Before a new app interface is ever seen by a real human, it is tested on highly sophisticated AI personas.
The mechanics of those AI personas are incredible. They are trained on millions of hours of human eye tracking data and cognitive load metrics.
So they see like we see.
Effectively, yes. When a designer feeds a new layout into the system, the AI simulates human foveal vision and predicts exactly where a user's eyes will dart around the screen.
Generating a cognitive heat map.
Yes. It shows the designer precisely where a user might get confused, frustrated, or miss the call to action entirely.
It's literally like having 1,000 beta testers living inside your laptop, running focus groups in a matter of seconds.
Without paying for focus groups.
Exactly. And it's really interesting to see how different companies are handling this integration culturally. The sources point out that Stripe, for example, is encouraging organic tool adoption.
Just letting their designers experiment and find what fits naturally into their day-to-day.
Right. But Anthropic is taking a wild approach. Because their AI can write the production-ready code for the interfaces, their human designers have stopped doing layout entirely.
They don't do layout at all.
Nope. They focus 100% on deep conceptual storytelling and brand philosophy. The machine builds the physical house, but the human decides how it feels to live in it.
That's a profound shift. But as with any rapid technological shift, this new workflow brings massive ethical and legal hurdles.
Oh, I'm sure.
The Graphic Artists Guild has laid out specific frameworks for this, heavily focusing on bias auditing.
Bias auditing, what does that look like?
Well, because these models are trained on historical data, they often spit out highly homogeneous, Western-centric visual tropes. It's a functional design problem. Designers have to actively force the AI out of its default biases to create anything globally representative.
Because if you just let it run on autopilot, it just defaults to the average.
Exactly. And furthermore, designers are having to radically protect their intellectual property.
Yes, the AI training bots that scrape portfolios without consent. The sources mention designers are now using protective tools like Glaze. Wait, how does Glaze actually stop a bot from looking at an image on a website?
It operates at the pixel level by introducing a mathematical noise layer over the image.
A noise layer, like static.
Basically, yes. But to human eyes, the image looks completely normal. Maybe a digital painting or a logo, it looks fine to us. But to a diffusion model's computer vision, that specific pattern of noise alters the data so drastically that the AI registers it as something completely different.
Like what?
Like a 3D rendered cube or a photograph of a car. It effectively poisons the data the bot is trying to scrape, protecting the designer's unique style from being replicated.
That is brilliant. It's literally digital camouflage.
Yeah.
But if bots are scraping portfolios so aggressively that we need pixel-level camouflage, how is any of this legal? Like, if an AI basically traces a style to generate a new logo, who actually owns it?
That is the big question.
What does this mean for you, the listener, if you're a business owner hiring a designer to make your new logo?
Well, the current legal reality is a massive wake-up call for a lot of businesses. As of right now, the U.S. Copyright Office firmly refuses to grant copyright to purely AI-generated visual assets.
Wait, really? They just flat out refuse.
Flat out. This means that if you use a completely AI-generated brand identity or product design, it is legally defenseless. A competitor could theoretically take your exact logo, put it on their product, and you would have absolutely no legal recourse.
That is a staggering commercial liability. You literally cannot afford to cut the human out of the loop if you want to protect your business assets.
Nope. Unique, legally defensible brand identities still rely entirely on human designers applying original creative authorship that a court can recognize.
Which is why professionals navigating this landscape are turning to highly curated, human-centric networks to stay updated.
Yeah, they aren't just relying on software manuals anymore.
They're reading substacks like The Casual Archivist, which looks back at vintage, forgotten print ephemera to find unique human inspiration that hasn't been swallowed by the algorithm yet.
Yeah.
Or networks like Designing with AI to keep up with the cutting-edge tech alongside a community of peers.
It all comes back to the core concept of our mission today. Graphic design isn't dying. It is experiencing an algorithmic renaissance.
An algorithmic renaissance.
Artificial intelligence has proven itself to be the absolute ultimate tool for speed and volume. But human beings remain the undisputed masters of strategy, emotion, and cultural connection. The professionals and the businesses who will win in this era are the ones who embrace the artist-in-the-loop model.
The machine does the heavy lifting, but the human steers the ship.
Exactly. To distill all these sources for you, do not let the automation anxiety win. If you are hiring, look for the tastemakers and the curators. If you are a creator, lean heavily into your messy, lived experience.
But there's a final thought we want to leave you with, something to mull over that builds on everything we've explored today.
Right. We established that generative AI models are trained exclusively on the mathematical averages of historical human data.
Yeah.
So if society eventually relies exclusively on AI to generate all our art, design, and visual culture, where will truly original, unprecedented visual trends come from in the future?
Oh, wow. If the machine can only remix the past, does a world run entirely on AI eventually run out of fresh human inspiration to pull from?
Does the entire model eventually collapse in on itself?
It's something to think about the next time you see a perfectly symmetrical, flawless image on your feed. Remember, it's the asymmetry, the little crooked smiles, the wonky typography, and the slight imperfections that prove there is a living, breathing human behind the work. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and keep exploring the Synthocene. We'll catch you next time.